It is so good to be back doing a video review after 3 long months. And in this lockdown, I've gotten, well, a little bit bigger, perhaps a little bit wider. And all this time being locked up has also made me more patient, more mature even, you could say. And these are all things you could also say about this, the 2020 Honda City. But wait for just a second, because something's fishy over here. This car is based on the same chassis architecture as the 4th Gen City. It has the same wheelbase as the 4th Gen City, the same wheel size as the 4th Gen City, and even the engine and transmission options, well, they sound a bit familiar. And here's the kicker. This isn't replacing the 4th Gen City. At least initially, both models are going to coexist. So exactly what is it that makes this the 5th generation of the Honda City? And is this a revolutionary change we expect a new City to be?
Well, let's start with the styling. No doubt there's some shock and awe here, but polarizing? I don't think so. And that's rare in an age where every new car launched gets a very strong response. There's a secret to this, and I think I have it figured out. I'll tell you what it is in a bit.
Before I get into the more obvious bits, let me tell you about what may not be all that apparent to you on your screen right now. This is a bigger city, and by a large margin at that. I won't get into the exact numbers because you can see that on your screen right now anyway, but here's something to paint a mental picture. Not only is this longer and wider than its immediate rivals, but it's also larger on almost every count than the old Honda Civic. That alone gives it a great sense of grandeur, and then it brings on the bling.
There's an evident attempt to emulate the Civic and the Accord. The 9-array LED headlights are by far the most attention-grabbing element and could actually have people confusing this for the Civic in their rearview mirror. The side profile looks edgy and more chiseled than before. The cuts and creases have more definition to them, but to appreciate that shoulder line that connects the head and tail lights, it's best to look at the City in silver. In the other colors, this styling highlight may not have the same impact. I also like the new wheel design. Still a bit shouty but not overstyled. That said, would at least 195 section tires be too much to ask for? The rear though is where the new City looks the most different. The lamps don't look awkwardly oversized anymore. They match the rear mass appropriately and help the car look better proportioned. A little black mesh insert in the lower half of the bumper would give it a sportier edge though.
But the basic silhouette of the 4th Gen City has been retained, and it's quite apparent, isn't it? And it's not just the wheelbase, even the ground clearance hasn't changed, so it's not like it's got a brand new stance. But I think that is exactly what makes this new City's look quite easy to digest. It has the swank and flash of something new and relatively unseen, but at the same time, it has that comfort factor of something that is familiar to us. Whether that's a good thing or not, you tell me.
I for one feel like Honda's been a touch too conservative with the changes. I mean, even the color options. With the exception of a slightly different shade of white, they're the same as the old car. Take a look at the color options on the ZigWheels app and let me know in the comments if there's a color you'd like to see added. Blue perhaps?
But there is one thing that is refreshingly different. Now this is where things could get a little bit controversial. You see, the Honda City's dashboard has always been something quirky. A little offset trim over there, a little changed angle over there, and it's largely asymmetrical. But all the time it would maintain the core necessity of usability while getting a little bit of a personality of its own. Coordinated chaos, if you will. But this is cleaner than a Teletubbies browsing history. It is perfectly symmetrical, and in that way it looks more European than Japanese. I for one definitely like this new look, but honestly that's not the litmus test over here. You see, Hondas tend to bait you in with the design and the wow factor of the styling, but they seem to fall short of delivering that +1 quality that would match that aesthetic appeal. Has that changed now? I'll be honest, not entirely, because there's plenty of hard plastic used all around the cabin. Even bits like the dashboard on the passenger side, you would expect something like this to have a soft touch or soft feel, but it doesn't. And it does feel very familiar in some ways, especially if you look at certain trim parts and even the center console for that matter. What they have done is that they've added some enhancements. For example, this wooden finish that's integrated into the dashboard. It's very tastefully done, better than what we've seen in the Ciaz, for example, definitely better than what we saw in the Mobilio RS. But I wish that this wooden finish would go across the dashboard and into the doors. You've also got the touch panel AC that's been removed for this more sensible setup. Looks almost Audi-like, don't you think? And it's got this nice tactile sound to it. You hear those little clicks? Sounds pretty good, right? And you've also got this leather finish along the dashboard. So they've made it a lot better, but it's still not the improvement we would hope to see in a brand new generation of the City.
Smaller stuff aside, there are some fresh new highlights. My favorite one would have to be the new 7-inch digital driver information display. The system switches displays with luxury car smoothness and offers a detailed list of data, including a G-meter, just for kicks. The touchscreen's bigger as well at 8 inches, and the interface is easy and responsive enough. But the resolution and color quality is nothing to write home about. Even the display itself looks a touch aftermarket, and the Honda Amaze's Digipad 2.0 feels nicer to look at. This screen is of course where the rear camera feed will be seen, but it's also where the lane watch camera display comes up. This Accord and Civic derived feature is quite useful to work around blind spots, but both the reverse and lane watch camera quality is subpar. The video feed is quite poor, and the drawbacks here will be amplified at night or when it rains. But you'll be happy to see that Honda's finally upped its tech game, offering connected car tech with a twist. First, there's the Honda Connect system, through which you can set up special alerts, geofence the car and track its movement, or even manage remote control functions like controlling the door or boot locks, and even remotely starting the engine and air conditioner. In addition to this, the City offers the segment-first Amazon Alexa connectivity. No, it won't make the car go out and pick up deliveries for you, but it gives you access to a wide range of functions and information through your Amazon Home Assistant. For more details on the Alexa system, go ahead and click the link in the description and check out the details in the text review on Zigbee.com. Other features include cruise control, a Civic-like engine starter on the remote key, and an electric sunroof.
Honda City, right? The enthusiast sedan. It's all about the driver is what the thought that comes to our mind. But the reality is that from the second generation onwards, the Honda City has become more and more about this right here, the rear seat.
So much so that the front seats are actually smaller in size and have been designed to open up the sense of space for rear passengers. Even the front headroom seems to have taken a hit in the process, and it doesn't feel as king-sized as before.
But at the rear, it's more of the same, but then some improvements. For example, I do wish that I had more headroom at the rear, but there is an improvement in the knee room, and significantly so. We're talking about space that's better than even the Ciaz. You've also got better spacing in the seat rail, so there's slightly improved footroom, and there are certain conveniences that have been included to make the backseat experience that much richer.
Like before, the City gets rear AC vents and 12-volt charging points, but now there are 4 sub-slots in the seat back pockets to accommodate your smartphone. 2 things they could have done differently though. 1. Swap out one of the 12-volt sockets for a laptop charging point, and 2. Offer at least one USB charging point for the rear. But they've done more for the rear seat still, because
you've also got a dedicated headrest for the middle passenger and a proper 3-point seat belt, and a rear sunshade, which apparently is exclusive for the India-spec model. But there is something that makes the rear seat experience so much more rewarding and colossally better, and it goes beyond what's inside the cabin. My biggest gripe with the Honda City has finally been fixed. The ride quality. The suspension setup, it's so much more absorbent, more mature, and yeah, it's comfortable. So even if you're going over gravelly roads like the ones we're on right now, the suspension doesn't feel shaky, so you don't land up feathering the throttle to try and take it easy and feel less of the road surface. Similarly, even if you go over potholes, even sharper ones, you might hear them as little dunks in the suspension, but you're so well insulated for them. And I'm very surprised that I'm saying this about a Honda City. And another point to top, when you go over speed breakers, you can take them at speeds of even 30 kilometers an hour and it doesn't bottom out or scrape, which is very big news for Honda City owners. So my biggest takeaway, the biggest thing that I'm most excited about in the new City has to be the ride quality. It has improved by a big margin and you can tell this in the first few kilometers of driving. And if you thought that with a more comfort set, soft suspension setup that you'd get a compromise when it came to high-speed stability or ride quality, no. Even at speeds of 100, 120 kilometers an hour, the car is completely flat, stable and maintains that comfort even over, say, expansion joints. So it's a very good balance and seemingly it's a leaf that they've taken out of the book of the new Honda Civic. But come on, it's a Honda City. As much as we'd like to focus on the back seat, it's got to have something for the driver. Alright, so we're in the petrol manual. This is the City to have. Okay. And it's the one that we've had an obsession with ever since the first generation. And now, in this generation, it's also got a G meter. Ooh, it's a nice little gimmick to look at. But what exactly has changed with this in the 5th generation City? Because on paper, it doesn't seem like a big difference, right? Well, it's gone from a single overhead to a dual overhead cam setup and it makes about 2 PS more power, which makes it the most powerful petrol car in the segment right now, although not by the biggest margin. So the differences on paper or technically aren't really all that extensive. So do you feel some colossal difference in the actual drive experience? Well, no. I mean, the real experience matches what's on paper because you've not got a major difference in terms of the power output. So the behavior seems more or less the same. So it's a good old-fashioned, naturally aspirated petrol engine that absolutely loves tickling towards the red line. It's an engine that you can push all day long. It has no hesitation whatsoever. It enjoys enthusiastic driving. Oh, I love that engine note. That is something that they've retained even with the BS6 update. And that is by and large the package that you've got over here. Because the Honda City's IV Tech was always a very nice and enjoyable engine, not only to drive, but also to listen to. So I'm glad to know that even with the BS6 transition, that charm and that appeal of the petrol engine hasn't been lost. But after all, this is a Honda City and all emotions aside, it is a city car and when you're looking to drive it in regular conditions in the urban jungle, it's perfectly fine. You can give it the lightest bit of throttle inputs, it doesn't need a lot of pushing to manage getting up to say 60 kilometers an hour and it's a very compliant engine and one that's very easy to get used to even if you're driving a car of this category for the very first time. And a very big part of offering that great city usability is this, third gear. So the third gear in the Honda City Petrol is sort of tall, which means you could drive at speeds of as low as 30 kilometers an hour. You can even climb over speed breakers in it. And it'll be perfectly fine trudging on, going all the way up to say 80, 85 kilometers an hour, which gives you a great amount of versatility. It's one gear that you can use both on the city as well as in the Ghat section when you want to have a little bit of fun. For me personally though, aside from whatever few tweaks that they've made with the engine itself, the biggest change is the addition of a sixth gear, what I'd like to call the weekend gear. Because as much as we've seen the Honda City being driven in urban conditions in regular cities, it is definitely a great option when you want to take the family out for a weekend drive. So in that case, the sixth gear is a very big boon because you can manage speeds of about 100 kilometers an hour at just about 2500 revs, which does improve its long range capability. Now we come to what I believe could be one of the most important powertrain combinations for the Honda City, the petrol CVT. If you didn't know already, the second generation of the City was one of the first cars in India to actually offer a CVT. And since then, we've seen a lot of its rivals, including the Yaris and the Verna, catch up and even beat it. But now in the fifth generation, the transmission is still a 7-step CVT, but they've made the right amount of changes to make it a lot easier to use. So if you're driving at low speeds, even with path throttle inputs, this thing is beautiful. Super intuitive, very direct relationship between your throttle inputs and how the transmission changes ratios. So even if you engage it into sport mode and pin the throttle down, it's not a situation where the revs build up all the way, it starts screaming and then the transmission's playing catch up. No matter how hard you go on the throttle, the transmission makes sure that the power is delivered in steps and very progressively. You may not like it from an enthusiast perspective, but yeah, in terms of usability, it definitely takes away a lot of the stigma that's associated with CVTs. And in this one in particular, where you had a lot of fluctuation between the revs and ratios in the early generation, which did take its toll on fuel efficiency. I'm hoping to see that in our road test, this particular aspect does see a big improvement. And lastly, we come to the diesel, the one engine option that hasn't really seen much of any change except for the BS6 transition. And as you'd imagine, since the power, the torque, the rev figures, everything's identical, the drive experience remains more or less the same with some small changes. What stays the same is that it's still a very easy to use diesel engine in the sense that it's not one that gives you a very sudden or violent turbo surge, which makes it predictable to use in city conditions, and because it's got that nice belly full of torque, it becomes a blissful experience in the city since it's just so easy and maintains the efficiency as well. Not to mention, this was always an engine that was very good while delivering great highway performance as well as efficiency. The one thing that could have changed more was probably the refinement levels, because right now you are going to listen to the engine a little bit less, largely down to the foam padding that's been put into the A and B pillars and some variable sound insulation that they put all around the cabin. But the engine itself, there is a little bit of clatter, it still does sound a little bit unrefined, and it's not a benchmark in that particular sense. One good thing though is that the transmission itself has been made a lot smoother. In the 4th Gen City, the manual transmission felt rather notchy and hard to use, and it often used to refuse to get into gear even though the gates were fairly well defined. But right now it's very smooth, and you can actually draw a parallel between the petrol manual and the diesel manual when it comes to the smoothness of the transmission's usage. So that's a big thumbs up from us. With every new generation of the Honda City, we've seen revolutionary changes in terms of style, personality and appeal. This time around though, the changes are more evolutionary. They haven't reinvented the wheel with this one, but rather they focused on the drawbacks of the old model and improved on most of them. And the ones that they have improved on, they've done so significantly. It's still a very balanced car, finding a sweet spot between something like a Ciaz that has the space but lacks the features, and the Verna that has the features but lacks the space. I'd put it this way, it solidifies its position as the backseat owner's car to beat. It has the street cred, the swag, and a lot more sophistication in the drive experience. But the one thing that's worked against the Honda City in the past is its premium pricing. And as much as the Honda City name appeals to us emotionally, this time around they have to appeal to our financial sensibility. If they get the pricing right, then and only then, the glory days are back.